just getting set up with the tech here. So in the meantime, we can just start to settle our mind, our body and mind into meditation, finding that central point for you for practice. So this morning, we're doing the Death and Rebirth practice session. And so how we're going to do the 3 hours is we'll do a meditation for around 40, 45 minutes. And then we'll have a short break, but just keeping silence in the break for about 5, 10 minutes so we can keep mindfulness of the meditation. And then we'll come back and do another meditation, have a bit of a longer break, tea break, pee-pee break, whatever we need. And then we come back and do a little bit question answer and finish with a short meditation. So should be able to fit all that in, and we've got 3 hours. It can go quite fast, but we'll try and fit all that in. Oh, great. So Base just set us up here. So as you can see on the screen, what I've introduced here is this mantra. Just introducing a little bit mantra. Some of us were at the weekend, last weekend that I led with Venerable Katie on ritual and mantra. So this mantra, you know, if we can, when we start or when we enter in the Buddhist tradition, when we enter into a temple gompa, a place or even a room where we have our altar in our house, you know, it's really great if we can feel inspired thinking about the qualities. You know, when we look at the images of the Buddhas, the texts, whatever we have on our own altar, or the photos of the teachers, you know, thinking about, you know, what we've received so far from that wisdom, the wisdom, these wisdom sources, you know. So some of us have been practicing for some time. So we've already received quite a lot that's helped to transform, shift our perception, even our motivation, how we live life. So it's really good to, you know, when we come in, if we feel inspired to create this habit of putting our palms together. So here we have an image of the Chenrezig, the Buddha compassion, at our heart. And just sort of paying homage or feeling gratitude for that. We can start with that, you know. So we're all here because we've already received something. And that much more openness and curiosity we have, that much more we're able to receive, you know, that benefits our heart and mind. So, and you know, just this mudra can be a kind of way of showing our appreciation, connecting with the wisdom, the guidance we've received so far, and helping us to open up to receive more wisdom and guidance. When we touch a space of confusion, kind of something unknown, we don't know how to deal with in our life, this can be our source of guidance and inspiration. The mantra, when we chant it together, simply kind of embodies the qualities of the Buddha, the Dharma, Sangha. In essence, it's praising the wisdom of the Buddhas, that wisdom that's latent within us and needs to be awakened. And requesting that almost when we put our palms together, we're requesting more and more wisdom to ignite, to awaken, to develop in our heart and mind, and in all sentient beings' heart and mind. That much more wisdom we have, and as of course that much more goodness, life goes much more smoothly. So let's just chant together 3 times that mantra, or just listen and allow the mantra just to kind of melt or absorb into your being, whatever's easier. I'll do the first one and then we can do the 2 more together. Om Namo Manjushriye, Namasu Shriye, Nama Uttamashriye Soha. Om Namo Manjushriye, Namasu Shriye, Nama Uttamashriye Soha. Om Namo Manjushriye Namasusriye Nama Utamashriye Soha. So we can think, may the wisdom and the goodness of all the Buddhas, all the holy beings, all the great saints awaken in my mind, in my heart, in my being, and awaken in all sentient beings, all friends, family, people we work with, all the spiritual leaders, all the political leaders. Everybody needs proper wisdom and a good heart, so may it awaken in all sentient beings. So again, just connecting into our posture. What's important for meditation is to try and keep the top of our body upright. Like the center of our body having like a pillar inside that's holding us upright and straight so that we don't slouch and kind of end up with a foggy mind during meditation. So connecting with that inner pillar, what we call the central channel that runs just along the spine, just in front of it, like a beam of light from our sit bones all the way up to our crown. Imagine it's like a pillar of light just supporting us, illuminating us through the practice. And taking a few minutes just to connect with the breathing. Maybe just a couple of inhalations and exhalations, long, slow, and deep, to bring us into the breath and the body. Breathing deeply through the stomach area, just for a few breaths. So as I mentioned before, all of us come here because we're seeking spiritual guidance, a direction to put our heart and mind in that feels wholesome, that gives us energy, gives us more joy, helps to orientate us on a path that's, enabling us to benefit ourselves and others more. So today, after the classes on death and rebirth, we're going to try and meditate on them for a while, meditate on the topics, allow them to kind of go a little bit deeper into our mind, our being, our experience. So in this tradition, one of the ways to kind of prepare the mind, create space in the mind, is just doing a few practices, prayers beforehand, before we go into what we call the analytical style meditations. So as we did in the class, we're just going to start with a very basic Chenrezig practice to guide us through the few hours. So start with just trying to imagine that we're in a beautiful place, peaceful place. It's not concrete and solid. It's made of light. So all the room, the place we're in starts to, all the molecules, particles start to dissolve into light. And the ground is made of like lapis or some kind of precious blue stone. It's very soft to touch. Even if we can't visualize it, we just try to feel we're in this lighter place. There's a vast blue open sky above us. There's parks and trees and flowers. So the whole place just has this beauty and serenity that helps to kind of open and relax our mind. And then spontaneously, like a rainbow appearing, this Buddha of compassion, Chenrezig, starts to appear, or just instantly appears, just at the level of our brow, about a body length away, made of bright light, white light, like the moon. Or we can just imagine the moon, that serenity, peace of the moon appearing. And the rays of the moon just shine on me, and we imagine all beings kind of around us. So Chenrezig is the Buddha that embodies this quality, the kindness and compassion. Compassion for me, compassion for all beings. So we try to feel the softness of the light on our face, trickling through our whole being, feeling embraced by the light, and this compassionate figure, soft being of Chenrezig, with those kind of lotus-like eyes smiling upon me. Imagine that he's embracing that light, that love's embracing my friends, my family, embracing the world with all the different types of suffering that's going on right now. So what we do first, is we take this sense of refuge in the external Buddha, Chenrezig, but mostly in our kind of potential, our inner potential, our Buddha nature that has this ability to transform, has this innateness that's able to transform. So we're taking refuge in our potential for transformation, our potential to develop, like the Buddha, fully develop wisdom and compassion, to awaken that within ourselves step by step, day by day, moment by moment. See if you can just touch base with that potential within ourselves. that potential for change. So when we recite the prayer together, we feel that's what I'm taking refuge in, the outer Buddha to guide me to that deeper place of transformation, innate goodness and wisdom. So we recite once in Tibetan and twice in English. O Sangye Chodan Sogi Chognam La Chanchu Bardu Dagni Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chen Sogi Be Sonamgi Drola Penjir Sangye Drupar Shog. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. So, as I say, before we begin analytical meditation, it's just good to connect with that sense of refuge, wherever it is for us right now. And holding Chenrizik to kind of help us through the meditation we're going to do on impermanence. So the basis of death and rebirth is the fact that, everything in life is impermanent. This is the first basic root teaching that the Buddha taught. So we're going to try and get some experience of this as we go through the meditation today. Let's bring our awareness to the breathing. The inhalation and exhalation of the breath as it goes in and out the nostrils. We're trying to touch, get a sense of the impermanence of the breath, the ever-flowing, changing nature as it goes in and out. Of our nostrils. Try to connect with, as we inhale and exhale, how the breath is changing. How the sensation of the breath going in and the breath exhaling, the feelings and sensation, how that's changing momentarily. See if we start to touch that a little bit with our mind. Let's just do this for a few minutes, just being with that inhalation and exhalation, and getting a sense of this changing nature of the breath and the sensations as it goes in and out the nostrils. Now let's shift our awareness out a little bit further, wider, to the body, the skin, the blood, all the atoms and particles continually turning, shifting, changing. Just connect with that and see if we can get a feeling of the shifting and changing of the whole body, you know, how it's in this nature of flowing and shifting and changing and decaying. Try to touch that with our mind. You know, if we don't check up a little bit more below the surface, or what we perceive, things feel very solid because of the presence of delusions in the mind, especially in this case, attachment and ignorance. We always have a sense that the body is very solid and concrete. But as soon as we start to touch the surface of our mind or experience with meditation, we start to feel it's quite the opposite. We know our skin's continually shedding. All the particles, the atoms in the skin are changing all the time. Even the scientists know that. So we have to use the microscope in meditation to go a little bit further and dig in to how things really exist with our mind. We use it with our mind, consciousness. And what we discover is that actually most of the time we're hallucinating. You know, we feel things are concrete and solid, everlasting. As soon as we start to investigate with a microscope in meditation, we see a different picture. The organs, blood, the vessels, the atoms. Deep inside the body, there's this constantly changing nature. It's a little bit like the flow of a river. Nothing's staying the same. And eventually, everything ends, you know, finishes. That which arises abides, declines and decays and finishes, ends. Again, bring our awareness further out into the room you're in, the chair, the carpets, the floor. Try to dig a bit more deeply with a conscious and awareness into that ever-changing nature, just like we're looking through a microscope, investigating and seeing, wow, everything's constantly shifting and changing and decaying, being reborn again. It doesn't really have this concrete nature. So just try to be with that flowing, shifting nature of the room. And if we go back through our lives, is there anything that's stayed the same? Maybe it appeared like that temporarily, for some time, but then there was a change or a shift. So go back through our memories, our life, and again, see it's a constant flux and change of people, friends, family, events, memories. Just be with that for a few minutes, connecting with that flux, fluidity, and change. And again, on a bigger level with the world, the news, the shift and changes that go on in our environment that we hear about in the news. With the weather, the elements. Everything's in this constant flux and change, in this nature impermanence. There's nothing that lasts forever. So the purpose of this meditation mainly is to try and cut through what appears to our mind and what's actually happening. What appears is a feeling of things being concrete and solid. But what's actually happening, this constant fluidity and change in our body, in our life, our thoughts and feelings. Everything's moving, shifting, decaying, and dying, ending. This is what we call the nature of samsaric existence, being in the cycle of birth and death. Nothing stays the same. Nothing lasts. It's not to get depressed about that. It's simply to be aware, be conscious. This is the nature of how our reality is right now. It helps to release a clinging or a sense of attachment to things, events, people, and have a little bit more of a peaceful and spacious approach to life. Because we know we start to develop the wisdom that everything's going to change. So we need to be more relaxed, less clingy, less expectation. So let's take a 10-minute break, but in the break, just try to keep, we're going to keep silence. Try to keep this awareness, this sense of ourselves, our body, our thoughts, our feelings, our environment, this kind of fluctuating nature, this sense of impermanence and everything changing all the time, moment to moment. See if we can just hold that awareness in the break time. And if we want to just stretch our legs, go to the bathroom, but just trying to hold that feeling, that sense of impermanence till we move on to the next meditation that will start at 11:15. Okay. Okay, so back to our more into meditation. Hopefully we're still in a bit of meditation. So again, meditation is really about going below the surface of how things appear to our mind ordinarily. In Buddhism, especially the wisdom side, it's really about cutting through what appears to our mind and how things actually exist. Cutting through the illusory, how things appear, but they're not actually existing like that. As soon as we just start to investigate just a little bit, apply some logic, reason, use that microscopic aspect in meditation, using meditation just with a little bit logic analysis. It's like, wow, things are actually existing in quite a different way. The first level is trying to get a sense of how things actually exist is exploring, investigating, and meditating in this topic impermanence and death and rebirth. Because that starts the first layer of cutting through our delusions, which is attachment. You know, that's the first problem, kind of blanket in our mind that covers our perceptions that we need to work on. This is why we meditate in impermanence. Death, it starts to chip away at the attachment, the clinging mind that doesn't create space for actual realization, actual kind of the light of wisdom to open up in our mind, to awaken in our mind. So we need to chip away at that. We need to cleanse that for the mind. So this is what meditation on impermanence, meditation on death does. You know, it chips away at that kind of habit in the mind of clinging and attaching to phenomena, people, events, thoughts, memories. It's just a habit we have. But it can change. Our mind has all the potential and the possibility for transformation because we have this Buddha nature. So before we go into the next part, let's just do a little bit of breathing, 9-round breathing. It helps to just, again, clear the mind. When we clear the wind element in the body, it helps to make the mind a little bit more clear for meditation and practice. So bringing the first finger of the left hand, closing the right nostril, just very long, slow, deep inhalation. Count to about 3 or 4, whatever's comfortable, just mentally. Inhaling through the left, moving the right finger to the left nostril, exhaling through the right 3 times. The opposite side, first finger to the right hand, closing off the left nostril. Inhaling long, slow, deep through the right, exhaling through the left. Both nostrils. Just being with that spaciousness, that lightness for a moment. It's a bit like opening the window in a room when we want a bit of fresh air. That's what we're doing here, just freshening up the mind. In that fresh space, just let's kind of reinvigorate our motivation by just reciting and contemplating for a moment the 4 immeasurables. These are the basis of developing bodhicitta, the basis for good heart, They allow us to develop the good heart. And then on top of that, we're able to develop the higher qualities, the more exalted, precious qualities of this awakening mind of bodhicitta. So these are like the groundwork for that mind. Let's recite together immeasurable equanimity. How wonderful it would be if I and all sentient beings were to abide in equanimity, free from attachment for some and hatred for others. Sit with that for a moment. It's called the immeasurable thought of aspiration. Thinking, aspiring, thinking that would be, amazing if I and all sentient beings were free from that. The next one, immeasurable love. How wonderful it would be if I and all sentient beings had happiness in the cause of happiness. In this tradition, we can't experience anything without having created the cause, the seed, the imprint in the past. Everything ripens because we've created that ourselves. No one else, simply ourselves have created that in the past. So to have happiness, we need to create the cause. If we want suffering, we need to create the cause. Ideally, we all want happiness. We're all the same in seeking this deep level of peace and happiness. So how wonderful it would be if I and all sentient beings created those causes to experience always happiness, always peace, always joy. And the next one, how immeasurable compassion. How wonderful it would be if I and all sentient beings were free from suffering and the cause of suffering. So temporary, the suffering is sickness, depression. Kind of grosser mental and physical sufferings are easy to see. But the deeper causes of karma that create suffering and the deeper issues of delusion, blankets or clouds of delusion that appear and that exist in our minds are not so easy to see. This is why we need meditation and teachings. But how wonderful it would be if I and all sentient beings were free of both of those karma that creates suffering and the delusions that create confusion. And the last one, immeasurable joy. How wonderful it would be if I and all sentient beings were never separated from the bliss of higher rebirth and liberation. Even in this human realm, we want to have comfort. We want to be warm, enjoy good food, have enough money, have good friends. Everybody wants that, but not everybody has that, even in this realm. Very few have that, actually. But how wonderful it would be if even all sentient beings had these temporary happinesses, as well as the happiness, the great peace of liberation. May they all have that. How wonderful that would be. So this is our motivation, contemplating the four immeasurables, kind of igniting our bodhicitta as we move into the next meditation, meditating on the time of death being definite. We went through this in the class. The 3 points to contemplate, when we're trying to get a deeper feeling, more closeness to our heart, that we are definitely going to die. Even when we know that, but it's quite far away often from our awareness, far away from our innate feeling. It's like something distant. Yeah, we're going to die somewhere over there, far away. So we meditate on death being definite to bring it closer to our heart. And again, to cut through our kind of mistaken views about death and its time. So even though it's a bit uncomfortable sometimes to think about death, the more we contemplate it, the easier it becomes. And the more it becomes the natural flow of life for us, life and death. And that much more actually courage we develop in life through thinking about death. So to get a deeper sense that death is definite, first of all, we remember that everyone, 3 points. First point, everyone has to die. Just being born in this human realm, this human place, with this body, what we call these aggregates in Buddhism, especially the aggregate form, means that we have to face death. This body, birth means death in this realm. Doesn't matter how powerful you are, famous actor, famous politician, so much how power we develop in this life is still due to having this body. It's in the nature of impermanence and decay. We have to face death. Take a moment to go around some of your friends and family. So say in 50 years from now, 60 years, they won't exist. They won't be here. Each one of them will have already passed from this body, this life. Even though we have great advances in medicine, technology, it's not going to save us ultimately from facing death. There's no cure for death. Another reason for thinking about death being definite is that similarly, not just everyone will die in, say 30, 40, 50 years, everyone we know, but with each moment, we're all getting closer to death. We came in this morning, we chatted, or we joined the Zoom, we chatted, we did some meditation. So that much of the day is already gone. That much of our life is already gone. that much closer we are to the time of your death. Even if we do live another 30, 40 years, but each month, each week, each day, each moment, and each breath, our life is getting shorter. Just like when we turn an hourglass upside down, the sand is slowly sifting through, that much our life is diminishing each day and each moment and with each breath. It's not getting longer. There's no addition. It's simply getting shorter, like the grains of sand coming through the hourglass. Spend a few minutes being with the breath or being with that image of the hourglass. So when we breathe in, breathe out, that much, life's getting shorter with each breath, with each moment, with each particle of sand. See if you can just hold that visualization or be with the breath and think about that for a few minutes. How the life is slowly diminishing through each breath and with each particle of sand. Hold one of those images. It's for a few minutes. Another analogy is like our life being like a train, At the time of birth, the train set off and it has a certain destination, and that destination is For us, the end of our life, death. So our life's a little bit like this train, passing through various phases, stages, places, experiences. We're like a passenger on the train that's taking us to our destination of death. And by each moment it moves, it goes closer and closer to that destination. We can see our life is like that, a series of experiences, events. And it's bringing us to this destination. And with each moment, with each breath, as it passes through the places, the train is just getting that much closer to the destination, to our place where we have to leave and exit the appearances of this life. It's a bit like being in a hotel. When we book a room, our consciousness comes into this body, stays there for a while, and then leaves, just like a guest, being like a guest at a hotel room or someone's house. It's not a permanent residence. It's just somewhere we're staying temporarily. And there's a time and a point to exit. Even, it's not, just say, the point of this meditation is not to get depressed, but to sort of come to a clear conclusion that, life is constantly diminishing. I can barely grab with my hands what's left of this life. Because it's not just, it's almost like the train, when it sets off for the station, it's getting faster and faster. The beginning of the life kind of maybe went more slowly, but like the train getting faster. Or as I mentioned in the class, the waterfall, the image of the waterfall when it comes off the precipice, it's like the precipice of birth. And as it moves slowly, slowly towards the destination of the water at the bottom of the waterfall, it gets faster. So it's like our life is becoming like that. So just getting faster. So it's really hard to hold on to the roller coaster of life, the roller coaster of appearances. It's kind of the nature of being in this human realm. So what we want to do is take the essence, just wake up and think, wow, I just have this short time that's almost like a flash of lightning. So with my Buddha nature, equipped with that knowledge, that understanding, I want to do my best to transform my heart and mind to positivity, to the causes of happiness. Let's see if we can just make that sort of clarity, determination, conclusion in our mind with this meditation. mean, most people say, you know, that just as you come to the end of your life, it's like all your life flashes in front of you, just like that flash of lightning. And even though it sometimes seems slow now, but when we look back, everything's going so fast. So how much of that are we actually taking hold of the essence of life, you know, the essence to prepare for death, the essence to develop our mind, this potential we have to awaken, you know, to awaken out of the cycle of birth and death altogether. We have that potential to take control of that, to be on top of that. So can we start to make step-by-step shifts and changes in that direction? So we just dedicate this practice that just may I continue to reflect on death, you know, in a wholesome way. And through doing that, may it motivate me, inspire me to kind of grab the essence, take the essence in my life so I don't have regrets at the death time. I feel prepared, at least on a basic level, to have a good death, to be ready for it. And in that way, you know, also making my life meaningful for myself and others. Okay, so let's take a break. We will take a 10-minute break and maybe another, maybe how much, 15-minute break. And then we can have a little bit question answer. Is that good? And then we'll do one or two more meditations depending on the time. So we'll have 10 minutes just to stretch our legs, go and get a cup of tea. And so it's 1:45. Let's come back at 5 to 12. And we'll have a, so we only have a, no, it's 1:30 it finishes, yeah. So we're about halfway through at 5 to 12. Come back at 5 to, and we'll just have some Q&A and have a little bit, few minutes break and do a little bit more meditation. Okay. Thank you. So I'll see you at 5 to 12. If you've got any questions, bring them with you. I know that Dana has a couple of questions here, so we'll start with those and then work through whatever else comes up. Trying to hold as well as you go into the break, just this sense of the definite time of death, if you got a little bit sense of that there. Yeah, I'm assuming everyone's back, even though maybe we don't see them all. But anyway, we thought we'd just start with some question answer. I also wanted to say, you know, really the practice day, it's not easy. You know, it's a bit like cooking for someone. It's not everybody's cup of tea, the way that one leads a guided meditation. So I want to say that in the beginning. It's really just to give you an idea how to meditate. You know, it's not just, and, you know, as I say, we're very fortunate, I think, really now to have this Lam Rim yearbook. So it goes through all the topics that we're covering in DB and gives little kind of mini meditations that you can just use for your motivation for the day if you're working through death or karma, and you can just do one a day and you just keep, you know, we just go through it. So it's a wonderful aid and for your practice. to have and to kind of, and again, when you read them, you try and read and just reflect like that, you know. So that's the idea. You sort of read a few points and then you try and reflect in a meditative state. So it sort of touches you in a bit of a deeper level. So questions. Maybe we start with Dana because she's in the room, and then we can go to any maybe on Zoom if there's some after.
I think, yeah. I'll stand over here. So I have a question about the time of death and how
Yes.
we've been focusing on getting prepared and meditating and contemplating. And I think about, I have a family history of dementia, right? My mother has
Yes.
dementia.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, so what happens if I do all this preparation and I think about death every day and I do my meditation, but 10 years from now, if I get to 10 years from now, I have the disease. How does that, in terms of subtle consciousness or consciousness, how does that impact?
Yes. Good question. Would anyone else like to, rather than me, blah, 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 anyone else want to give it a shot? How would you, how does that impact if you may end up with, any of us could end up with dementia, Alzheimer's, and we're trying to prepare and be aware. So how do you work with that? Any hands up? Urs. She's an Urs.
I mean, maybe I can say this. I'm a bit more optimistic because if you're a meditator, I think you're training your mind. So maybe that's a kind of a prevention against dementia. So maybe you're inoculating yourself against these kind of diseases. But that's a theory. I have no solid evidence.
Yes, great, thank you. Melanie, you got any ideas? Thoughts?
Well, I just was thinking of one of the founders of our group here in Missoula who had this exact thing happen to her. And I just remember folks, in the group saying, but she practiced so much and she had so many positive karmic imprints before she wasn't able to practice anymore, or wasn't able to even recognize a Buddhist walking into a room or something like that. But because she had so many imprints of positive karmic imprints that that would carry her through, right? So
Yes.
I always found that
wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, I think again, Melanie, I would say the same thing, I mean, really, that's what we're going on to in the next module. What Melanie's talking about, we'll be looking at karma a wee bit more deeply and understanding karma a bit more and the power of karmic imprints, So basically, we are, in a basic way, we're creating karma all the time. So we don't, you're right, we don't know what's ahead of us. I mean, we could have a sudden death, we could die in an accident, we could die in a lot of pain. So we're not able to really, if you're in so much pain, then sometimes you end up with a lot of medication and you're not very aware. So either way, what we have to rely on now is that's why it's so even more important, because we don't know what's going to happen, that we have to take the essence now, because what we get familiar with, there's also the part that, what ripens at the death time. I didn't manage to touch this in this topic, but I'm hoping to touch it in the karma topic. What we want to make sure is what we're most familiar with this life, or the karmas that are more powerful, are generally the ones that are going to ripen at the death time to help our consciousness with the future life. So if we've done a lot of goodness this life, like a lot of good karma, a lot of benefit, a lot of development of the mind, even though maybe the last few years we do end up with dementia or we die very suddenly, there's a strong possibility that that those karmic imprints will carry us into our future lives. That's what takes care. So that's why it's like, in the face of that's why it's so important now to do what we can, because we really don't know. And especially when you've got something like that. I mean, I had another friend whose family have Huntington disease. So he didn't know his brother had it, and he wasn't sure if he was going to get it, and he was a bit concerned about going to the doctor because you can get a test and they'll let you know. So he did find out that he didn't have it because his mother had it, his brother had it. But either way, it's like that's kind of in a way how you want to meditate, you know? It's like, I don't know, I could have an accident tomorrow. I could develop dementia or Alzheimer in the next year and I wouldn't really be able to practice. So that's actually juice for your meditation, if you can think like that. There is a meditation that you can do where you actually imagine going to the doctors, you've been diagnosed with something. And one way to bring death closer is imagining the doctor says, okay, you have cancer, you're going to develop dementia in a year, you know, something like that, that's more terminal. If you do, because that's something we can think, it's possible we end up with an itch or a sore or this and it's not going away, a back pain, then you go to the doctors and they say they've got bone cancer, you know, I mean, that can happen to any of us at any time. So that's, in the context of death and impermanence meditation, and in terms of the time, time is indefinite, definitely going to happen, it's indefinite, those two aspects can come into that meditation. You know, if you visualize that and think, it could, I don't know, it could happen like that. I could go and he says, I've got a few months. It happened to my sister-in-law, you know, she had some pains and wasn't going away. And she was told she had a year and a half to live, you know. So she's got a little bit longer now because some of the treatments are working, but it's not curing it. It's just giving her a little bit more time. So that's a great meditation to do. Actually, when you know it's there, it's like, okay, this, I don't know, but this could happen. So it makes it more, time becomes more precious. So that's the thing. What happens there, it's like there is a sort of fear. There's a fear. I mean, none of us want to die not aware, you know. But the reality is most of us, how much awareness are we going to have depending on, or how much ability are we going to be able to meditate. So taking the essence now is why it's so important. And training our mind now when we can is why it becomes so important. So these reflections actually are, and it's actually really good, you know. It's a blessing in disguise in a way because it's a possibility for you. So it makes you want to, whereas the rest of us, maybe our family are okay, I'm okay. You know, nobody's got cancer, nobody. So we have this feeling that I'll be okay, you know. But it's not what we want to do with this meditation. We want to feel like it's close, you know. That open up that vulnerability, that place of uncertainty that causes us to practice. Thank you. Maybe, does anyone else have a question online or something they want to share, or put your hand up, or maybe, oh, Melanie, yeah. We can come back, Dana.
I think this will be quick. I just have a question about the 49 days after, and if you're supporting the mind stream of someone who's passed or who's died. It's like every 7 days, right? That there's this opportunity for the transformation, right? And the question is it, you know, like if the person died on Monday, do you do those prayers on Monday, like the medicine Buddha and stuff, or do you do the prayers on Sunday?
Okay. So,
sorry, I know this
seems a good question. Yeah, I wasn't really clear on that myself for a while, and I believe it's Monday to Sunday. Just to clarify for everyone, so we have this 49-day period after we pass away, where we, you know, where we potentially are in the bardo for up to 49 days. Now, it can be less. But so in this tradition, to help people through that space, you can do prayers every day, you know. But usually they say after every 7 days, you experience a mini death and a rebirth in the bardo, in the place of the bardo realm for up to 49 days. So you come into the bardo if you're an ordinary being. If you're an enlightened being, you don't go through the bardo. But for ordinary beings who are still in samsara, we have to go through this place of the bardo. So every 7 days, in that place of the bardo, we sort of die and have a mini rebirth. Sometimes you go into your next rebirth after 7 days, or sometimes it takes up to 49 days. But after that time, you will take rebirth. But there are occasions when people get kind of stuck in the bardo, in the kind of spirit state. You know, when people talk about speaking to spirits and ghosts, that's when you're sort of stuck in a bardo state for a long period of time. So either way, Melanie's asking, because it's really good to do prayers for people every 7 days, or, I mean, every day is great, but if you can do every 7 days, especially high lamas who have some sort of clairvoyance and they can see, maybe you've asked them to do prayers for your friend who passed away, maybe they see your friend's they can see from the bardo being, they usually take a body that's similar to how they're going to be reborn, but it's a transparent body. It can go through walls and travel everywhere, but it tends to take on a similar look or appearance to where you're going to be reborn. So they can usually see. So if they see that your body's like a preta being, a hell being, their prayers can often help at those death and rebirths. If you do a lot of prayers, you can help to maybe shift in the bardo where they're going to get reborn, create more karma for them, help different karmas to ripen. So Melanie's asking, when is it the 7 days, So as far as I'm aware, Melanie, I think the last time we asked, like if they were died on a Monday, then the 7 days would be, I think, the Sunday. But I'd need to double check it, because I'm never quite 100% sure. I think different teachers may tell you different things, but I think it's the Sunday. But I would check with someone else on that as well. It's maybe more qualified. But I think the last time we checked, it was like a Sunday. It was the day before, it was like, that's the 7th day. So that's what Melanie was asking, that more technical, a little bit more technical question. Yeah. Any other questions? Maybe online, and then otherwise, Dana has another question. Oh, you were asking about that. Okay, Ladan has her hand up.
Yes, I have a question about I'm in the edge of my Dharma practicing when you know some of the things and you don't know more than that, and it makes you like asking question and makes you like anxious about the subject of dying when we go through the 9 stages. And when imagine you have in your lifetime, you had all the non-conceptual meditation on sunyata and other, it's really very well intellectually done. And when my question is the 9 stages that we saw, like mirage and for dissolution of body, is it not a conceptual phenomena of our mind, or we can just pass through it even if we are not like Buddhas or Bodhisattvas, only a normal practitioner? Do you know what I mean?
I think so. Anyone? So what I understand you to say is, even if you're a normal practitioner, you still pass through those?
No, even if you're
if you're a normal being, ordinary being, you still go through them? Is that what you're saying?
Is it not in the category of conceptual phenomena? Or it's inevitable? Because we say that you should practice, but in some stages they say, if you see, you heard all of these things that they say, if you see like Buddha, just kill them, and don't conceptualize anything. But now the practice is, if I understand it well, that you conceptualize some stages of dying.
Not really. These will naturally appear to your mind, these appearances. You may or may not be aware of them, but that's the process that you go through. It is a process. Even when we, there's times when we go to sleep that we also go through those dissolutions, but we don't necessarily see them. We're not aware of them because they're so fast and they're so quick. So it's a process that we're going through, whether we don't have to conceptualize it. It is a process that we're just going through. It's a little bit like karma. We're going through our karma every day. We can start to take a hold of that, or we can just be, driven by our karma. But if we start to understand the happiness and the causes and meditate and do, practice the Lam Rim, then we can start to take a little bit control of our karma. So similarly with the death process, it's anyway something we go through. Anyway, these visions appear just by the nature of the karmic realm we're in, the realm of being in this realm, the natural dissolutions of the aggregates. All this happens to us through the process. It's a process that we go through in death. It is an actual process. But what we can do is if we have a good level of meditation, we're able to see the visions that appear due to the natural dissolution of the elements and the aggregates. If we have a deeper level of awareness in meditation, we'll be able to recognize them and meditate on the fact, actually use them to meditate on emptiness. But they are appearances that happen to our mind due to the natural or kind of, the dissolution of form, feeling, aggregates, elements, and certain mental factors in the mind and levels of consciousness. So that's what manifests due to these dissolutions, but it's whether we're able to use them in a way to meditate on, mostly on emptiness, or even at our level to feel like. Yes.
Sorry, Vera. If I understand well, it means that imagine the death is coming because every day we are going to apprehend it and making friend with that. And when it's come, imagine that if everything is going well, since our dissolution of and other stages, in which stages, if we know that, like, we say to ourselves, I don't know how, but we feel that, oh, it's okay because I know these stages and I'm going to go to the bardo, or it is already the bardo.
The bardo doesn't happen till we get to the clear light. You go to it's the very end where you reach the clear light. And then from there, one either goes into most of us will go through a bardo state if we're still in samsara, unless you're able to use that level of meditation, or you've got so much virtue that you go into a high realm, a pure realm. But what we were showing in the class is just the dissolution down to the actual point where the consciousness leaves the body.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to the last point, I was going to do that meditation at the end today. Again, not that most of us are going to be able to recognize it, but it's just to, what we might do is, there's signs that happen. There's signs when you first know that you're dying. Okay, now is the first sign is you can't, Rinpoche says the first sign that we know on a physical level is that we stop to be able to see things. Our vision gets really blurred, our actual physical vision. We can't see people very well. We can't see things and people and objects. That gets really blurred. So if we have a little bit familiar, and again, this module, it's good to know the death process, but it's not something we need to feel like we really need to be able to meditate on that right now. More like what we want to use the death process for is just to remind us that we are going to die and we are going to go through this. So what I need to do now is really study and meditate in the Dharma, get some, develop my mind in bodhicitta and the good heart, get some understanding of emptiness if we want to delve deeper into the teachings, what is the nature of mind and consciousness? That's what will prepare us for death time. A little bit understanding the death process now, I think, is not that we might be aware of it all, but maybe on some physical level, we'll be able to think, well, I'm not, we know, if the doctor said, well, we're lying on our deathbed and the doctor said, oh, so you've got 3 days left. So you might already start to experience some of these things, like not being able to see clearly, and then sounds becoming very, very distant, and your hearing sense is starting to fade, it's starting to dissolve, or your body starts to get really, really heavy. Like you have no control of your limbs, your limbs are getting thinner and weaker. A lot of people start to get thin as they're passing away. That's the earth element dissolving. So if you've done a lot of meditation, you'll start to know that these are the signs. Okay, as much as possible for us, we just want to keep our mind in a good place. because it's happening, you know. We've kind of made we're just preparing for the day, you know. And then some of the signs start to appear and it's like, okay, this is happening. There's less fear because you're already you already know a little bit how it's going to look. Of course, if you pass away quickly, that's different. If you pass away with, you know, Alzheimer's or dementia, it's possible you can't do that, you know. So, but again, all of this is it's just helping us to prepare and be aware of what that's going to look like, you know. Does that help, Ladan? Not sure if that's answering your question.
Yes, it helps, but you know, it's always the other aspect that I know, like personally, I know that I have to develop my potentiality of being good, being like developing bodhicitta. But if it's like for me personally, if it's like a sense of urgency, because we learned that it can happen all the time. You don't know if you finish the day, and which is true. But it at the same time, bodhicitta, if you want to force it, it's not natural. So it's a challenge for me to say to myself, okay, you have time, you have no time, but you know, you have to develop your bodhicitta, and sometimes it takes time. It takes several
it does take time. I mean, that's the thing. And like in the other point, the other point, we have continuity consciousness, you know. So the thing is, death, and it's a tricky meditation to really get a handle on how you think about it in a healthy way, and not like a
healthy way.
neurotic, like I'm going to die and I need to get bodhicitta.
I need give me my bodhicitta.
You know, if we just keep planting the seeds, creating the karma, when we go into the karma module, it's all about just planting seeds. You know, we can't plant, you know, a seed in an oak tree and expect the next day or in a few weeks it's going to be this big oak, you know. The acorn, it doesn't turn into an oak. Similar mental consciousness, it's just not possible to think, well, I want to get bodhicitta and I'm going to die, so I just need to do it now. I mean, that's when you get lunar anxiety in this tradition, you know. It's more about slowly developing the aspiration, you know. We're at the level of aspiration, and that's good. You know, we hear about these topics. It is. I mean, there's a sense of like immediacy, but not with neurosis. And that's the balance with this death and impermanence meditation. It's like, okay, I need to shift and change my life. I need to shift gear. I have these potentials. But I need to not do it in a neurotic way, because karma's karma. We can only plant seeds. Every time we meditate, we're planting a seed. We're not getting we're planting like a seed for a beautiful plant. We're not planting the beautiful plant. You know, it takes time. You know, and that's why in the Kadam tradition, you say we need to look far ahead. It's hard for Westerners, because we want instant mashed potato. You know, we've got instant everything these days, so we want the Dharma to be instant, and that's why a lot of people don't stick with this. They're like, well, wait a minute, I want to feel better now. And it's like, well, sorry, but you need to create the karma for that. You know, exactly. You know, your house is a mess. You know, you haven't tidied it for a long time. It's going to take time. You might need to get a professional cleaners in to help you, kind of thing. And we're the professionals, you know, but you've not taken care for such a long time. And actually, many of us have. It's just that we missed quite a lot in our early life if we didn't meet the Dharma earlier. And even if you do meet the Dharma earlier, you still need to go through your own neurosis, you know. So death is just, for us, I think for us, just being aware of it, not neglecting that, leaving it on the side, closing the door to it, leaving it for later whenever it comes. It's like having that awareness in the inner life, in the present moment, using that awareness to slowly prioritize what's important. Using that awareness and the awareness for us of Buddha nature, that our mind has the potential to change, right? We have the potential for bodhicitta good enough right now, and I'm just going, like you're doing, Ladam, we're going to classes, we're listening, we're reflecting, and you know, I remember when I met the Dharma, I was in my 20s, so I had all my stuff as well. And I was spending 3 years in the East. Well, that's where I met Buddhism. And I went to a teaching with His Holiness. I was doing my prostrations. I was like full on, this is it, and doing all my prostrations practices that my teachers are giving me. So I was very enthused, And then I went to a teaching with His Holiness. The only thing I remembered, maybe after, I don't know, many years of teachings with His Holiness, I don't know how much you remember, but it all impacts, But I remember His Holiness saying, well, after 10 years, if you have a little bit less anger, that's great. Keep going. And I was like, you mean that's all we're getting after 10 years? And I was like, nah, because I'm getting enlightened, I was like, I'm going to be enlightened and I mean, who knows, I might get enlightened this life, but that sort of dropped by the wayside, So, but, so it's like, one has to kind of get a holistic view of the path, and think, wow, bodhicitta. The main thing is really having, His Holiness would say for years, well, I haven't developed, I haven't got bodhicitta, I haven't realized emptiness, but I've developed a great appreciation of that. And of course, many students were like, well, if His Holiness doesn't have it by now, where does that leave us, For Westerners, we're like, well, we've got no chance. So that can be a little bit disheartening for Westerners, right? Because we're like, pardon? I think I'll go do something else, So, I mean, so I think he had to shift gears a little bit like that. And he started to talk about, for some years he's been talking about dreams and some of his experiences. And actually, not that long ago, His Holiness actually said in a teaching about having, a realization of emptiness. And I was like, wow. And because I think for our times and for us, we need to hear that. They don't talk about it because they don't want to talk about their qualities. You don't say, I've got this and that. It can actually diminish your realizations. But at the level of His Holiness, it's just to benefit us and inspire us, because we already know His Holiness must have some of these things, to have the power and abilities that he has. So I think, definitely, it's a tricky meditation because we want to bring it close, but I think it's really about, I mean, I remember also another experience in the early days when I was like, we're going to die and I need to practice it. I was a little bit like this gung-ho as well. And one time Rinpoche came up and he said to me, enjoy the life. And I'm like, pardon? I'm like, but we're all suffering and we're going to die, I was a little bit too tight, So I made the mind a bit too tight, It's like, no, but I'm so serious in it. We're all going to die. And, it was very like this. And it wasn't really strong, but I could feel she was saying like, just relax, relax a little bit, because that tight mind will give you what we call lung in this tradition, like a wind disease where you end up with getting more neurotic instead of more patient and open.
Yeah, exactly.
But so it's the thing is, none of these meditations are easy. It's not like you just, oh, somebody led me, I know what I'm doing now. No, it's not like that. I mean, if you go and study yoga, your kind of hands and feet are all over the place in the first few classes, right? You don't know what you're doing. You can't get the breath and the movement and the away. You can't get all. So it's the same with this. We have to be patient and we have to slowly just chip away at these meditations and kind of try and get an idea of, well, what's going to happen with that. And it is, the idea is actually the mind should start to get lighter. We go into a deeper, we're trying to chip away our clingy mind. So we're not trying to do death and meditation to get more attached, but in a different way. It's to try and chip away at attachment and appearances of this life. So how that feels, how that starts to manifest in your mind takes a while. These meditations are not like just do a couple of times and I've got it down. We have to that's why this Lamrim yearbook, and actually for us beginners, it's better to just one day at a time and just get a wee bit of touch each of the meditations. And then we go back again and we do a little bit precious human. Even Venerable Renee, he asked one Lama Chodron Rinpoche, something like, I don't know what he asked exactly about, something about the Lamrim, and he's like, well, he said, you always have to meditate in the Lamrim, you don't stop, that's all the way up, along with some Tantra. If we start to get into some Tantra practices, both of them support each other and give you a little bit more idea of what's going on, So I was trying to do that in the meditation. I mean, it's to try and, impermanent is to lighten the mind. But, you know, alongside these, what is important is purification.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they kind of just land on top of the stuff and they don't seep in. We need to create space in the mind for this knowledge that we're developing to seep in. So purifications is really important. You know, we do
Yeah.
need that. That's why we offer like Vajrasattvas and pujas, and eventually some of us might get interested to do some Nundro or preliminary praxis. They really help to help us absorb these. But in the meantime, we just let them touch the mind wherever the mind is, you know, and be happy with that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Another small question. How
Can
did
we
you
ask maybe
know?
Ladan? Maybe wait, Joe's got her hand up. We'll come back, yeah?
No, how did you know that my house is a mess?
Your house is that was just that. Your house is a mess. Well, that's a great purification practice. Sweeping away the delusions of all sentient beings when we clean the house. Yeah, we're clearing our own garbage, attachment and fears and even our, you know, lack of confidence, low self, all that. We're cleaning that when we clean the house, yeah. There's a Nundro practice right away, yeah. Okay, we'll have Joe and then Dana. Oh no, you've had it answered already, yeah. Joe, your question?
Well, it's not a question.
Oh, how did I know that?
I listen. I wouldn't want to shock you, so you know, being predictable is quite quite helpful. I think it's actually it is relevant, but it's to do with the discussion we had a few days ago in the study class. And
Yes.
a lovely synchronicity happened a couple of hours after the class finished. I went back to a book. I was on the second chapter. It's a book that was given to me as a gift by the people in the church as a response, I think, to me giving them several copies of The Good Heart. His Holiness the Dalai Lama explores the heart of Christianity and of humanity. So I gave them copies, and one of the people from the Abbey gave me this in return. It's Bede Griffiths, A New Vision of Reality, Western Science, Eastern Mysticism, and Christian Faith. Now, Bede Griffiths, he was a monk, and he set up a monastery in India in the kind of, but in the tradition of an ashram. So I'd started chapter 2, and I'd left it for a few days. And after the class, I thought I'll pick that up again. And we were having a discussion about the different bodies, the gross body, the subtle body, and then the most subtle body. So 2 pages after I'd started, here's I think here's quite a clear, a concise explanation. So he says, the whole stage of psychic development belongs to, using Buddhist terminology, calls the I can't pronounce this, the Sambhogakaya.
Sambhogakaya.
Yeah. In this system, there are 3 levels corresponding to the 3 bodies of the Buddha: the Nirmanakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Dharmakaya. The Nirmanakaya was the body of the Buddha's manifestation in this world, and it's what is called the gross body. Then the Buddha had the subtle body of the Sambhogakaya level. The Bodhisattvas and the Dhyani Buddhas also belong here. And then it goes on to say, and I'm almost done, we can go through various levels of the subtle to experience the presence of God and the angels and the saints. Remember, he's talking from a Christian point of view. All of this belongs to the Sambhogakaya, but beyond the Sambhogakaya is the Dharmakaya, the body of reality. The Buddha's supreme being is the Dharmakaya, and this is the supreme consciousness. And it also says that the Sambhogakaya, so the one in the middle, at this level, there is still duality. For the Sambhogakaya is not the final stage of consciousness. It's still a matter of this world and the world of ideas. So for me, that helped. It was like The gross body was taken by the Buddha as he manifested as a human being. And then the one that I can't say, the subtle body is the one, I suppose it's seeing reality at the conceptual level, but then there's still duality. And then the final one, the Dharma Kaya, is the supreme reality.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps, but I thought it was a nice synchronicity.
Great. Yeah. Yes. That's the most subtle bodies are wind, and those three come from the subtle wind. We arise in those bodies. So this comes into the teachings in High Yoga Tantra, just to elucidate on that slightly. So as we were mentioning, when you go through these 8 death process stages, and then we get to the most subtle mind, consciousness, the clear light, which is actually the basis of the Dharmakaya. So it's not Dharmakaya as such, but if we meditate on that clear light mind, we can achieve the Dharmakaya, which is the truth body of the Buddha, if we recognize the nature of that clear light mind. So it's called the basis of the Dharmakaya, the clear light. And if we're able to meditate on that, then that becomes what we call the truth body of the Buddha, if we recognize its nature of emptiness. The Sambhogakaya we can achieve once so arising from when we get out of the clear light, instead of going into the Bardo state for holy beings like Lama Tsongkhapa, don't worry if you can't catch all this now, because it is kind of in the realm of the High Yoga Tantra teachings. But from that place of Dharmakaya and how these great masters meditate, I mean, all of us, we have these commitments once we take initiations to, instead of, when we get to this most subtle mind of clear light, instead of coming out of that and going into a Bardo body, we use that mind to achieve what Joe was saying as the Sambhogakaya body of the Buddha, the enjoyment body of the Buddha. So instead of going into a Bardo body, we actually meditate on what we call achieving the enjoyment body of the Buddha, which is made of light. It's not got any, it is actually free from all obscurations, and it's an example of the enjoyment body is, these images, well, Chenrezig, the practice that we were doing, that's an enjoyment body of the Buddha. Usually the enjoyment bodies have ornaments and clothing and silks to show the kind of they all show their qualities and realizations. Another one is Tara. Medicine Buddha is the other body that Joe was mentioning, the Nirmanakaya body, and that's a little bit more gross again, but it's still free from all obscurations. It's just these 3 types of bodies that can benefit sentient beings in different ways. It's all coming from the realization of bodhicitta and emptiness, having achieved Dharmakaya. And then instead of going into the Bardo bodies, you can actually, through these practices, practice arising as these bodies of the Buddha and achieving enlightenment in the Bardo state, instead of going in and being an ordinary being. So that's a little bit, again, just adding to what you were saying there, Joe, using these subtle states of mind to develop these kind of Buddha bodies that we see in Tara and Medicine Buddha. They're all like forms that we can achieve, once we've freed ourselves of obscurations, and especially freed ourselves from ignorance grasping at true existence. So it's a way where you can transform death and rebirth, what they say, into the 3 bodies of the Buddha. But again, most of that teaching belongs to the sort of higher class of Tantra. So that's a deeper reason why we start to understand Ladan, the process for great yogis, once you've got a deep level of meditation, then you're able to actually lucidly, like lucid dreaming, as I said in the class, see when you're dying what's happening. Actually see. There are some masters who, when their disciples, they're saying, oh, I'm going through this stage now, I see the mirage, I see this, that they can actually say what's going on to a certain level, and then one goes beyond the ability to be able to speak when you go into more subtle levels of consciousness. So that's the kind of goal for great meditators, is to use these subtle winds to achieve these subtle bodies of the Buddha. Is that making some sense? Getting there. But again,
Yes,
this
and
is
he,
time.
he
Yes.
yes, sorry, just yes, I decided to save on some words, but you've explained it, and you've because he does say that yes, we can achieve this through meditation. These different
Yeah.
bodies of the Buddha.
I mean,
Thank you.
there's nothing that the Buddha has achieved that we can't. It feels unachievable right now, but the reality is the Buddha's the teacher, he's the guide, and he's, and we have our gurus, and so we can achieve all of this. But again, Ladan, it's a very we might not do. This is why this is a lifetime sort of practice. But that much more we understand karma, that much more we start to understand the Lam Rim. The possibility, even if it's really small, that possibility, you start to see like, well, it is possible, But I just need to be patient, step by step, do. Some lifetimes. I mean, a lot of these lamas, even them, they've been practicing for many, many, many lifetimes. Even His Holiness says he has a memory, isn't it, Bay, of being, when the Buddha was in this world 2,500 years ago, he remembers being, I don't know if he said a beggar or someone possibly at the back of the crowd when the Buddha was teaching. He has that memory. And it's interesting when you read, there's a great book by Glenn Mullan, who's written, I don't know, Urs, or if someone else has read it, The 14 Dalai Lamas by Glenn Mullan. It's a wonderful book because it goes through each of the lives of the 14 Dalai Lamas and even the previous lives where they came from. So way back to Drom Tompa, His Holiness is actually a memoration of Drom Tompa. He was a great practitioner in Lama Tisha's time around the 11th century. So it's very fascinating to go way, way, way back, So it gives us a sense of proportion, maybe, with our practice, So it's for us as Westerners, it's trying to find a contentment in where we are now. Being very happy and being able to be grateful and rejoice. And here we are, I've got my stuff, but there's a sort of joy or happiness that's starting to open up in our practice, along with that sense of immediacy, but not neurosis. So it's getting that balance, and it's not like we're just going to get that right away. That's why every day we just dip in according to our time and our ability, just dip into the Lam Rim with one of these topics, just let that influence your mind for the day, and then next month, maybe it's karma, next month but enjoying that and just feeling like, well, everything's just creating a seed on my mind, so next life is going to be clearer and clearer. And I have one friend, she said it's hard for her to practice this life. So she's making preparations. She wants to be ordained in her next life. And she's always saying to me, I want to be like you. I want to be ordained. I'm like, well, there's more things you can. Yeah, but I mean, it's good in terms of wanting to be ordained, that to make that aspiration if it's not happening this life or whatever it is, or to be a bodhisattva. This is what this whole thing does, it's like we're making prayers and aspirations. I mean, for example, Lama Zopa Rinpoche in his previous life, he was called Laudo Lama, but he was regarded as a teacher, and he lived in a small Himalayan village, but not really as a high Lama that life. But he had incredible signs at his death time. And he decided, in Rinpoche's past life, he basically dedicated the last 25 years of his life to practice, which is quite interesting because then this life, wow, look what Rinpoche achieved, 160 Dharma centers, social projects. I mean, I don't even know all the things that Rinpoche did. It's like mind-blowing because of that dedication. So it's like these teachers kind of know, well, if I give up a couple of lives but make a lot of aspirational prayers and practice and develop, then, maybe in 2 or 3 lives down the line, I'm going to really be of benefit. So it's that kind of big view, but still not like, okay, well, I've got a bunch of lifetimes, I'll just check out this life and just do a little bit. It's not that either. It's a bit about like taking the essence as much as we can of our life, but having a long-term view, like where do we want to go, and maybe some of us will go to the Pure Land, there's also Pure Land practices you can do, praying to Tara, Medicine Buddha, making strong connections with these images might bring us into a Pure Land in next life where we don't have to. I mentioned that just touching on it at the end of the class. If we do practices with particular deities and Buddhas, or according to what our teacher advises, we can even in this life create the causes to go to a Pure Land. where we don't have to take a gross body, where we just receive teachings and we can develop more quickly. So there's that way to practice as well. There's many avenues we can take, you know, but it's mainly about, that's why the teaching on precious human life for us is quite important, to get a joy from that, because we have done a lot so far when we look in the world, and that we have a connection to Dharma, to these teachers. We have interest in thinking about the nature of reality, thinking about samsara, just considering those things. Many people, you know, as much as I love my family, most of them, if I just talk too much, you know, I can't talk too much about Buddhism because there's just a glaze, you know. They're lovely people, but, you know, I mean, I don't really, that's what they appreciate about me now. I very rarely talk. I mean, in the early days, it was like, oh, you all need to do this, and, you know. You're like a reborn Christian or something. It's like, oh God, get away from it kind of thing, you know? You just want to talk about it. And then you see that after a while, you're like, wait a minute, I think they're just glazing over and just being polite, you know? So it's more about, as it is in Buddhism, when people ask you, then you share. But if there's not an openness there, it's not happening. It's not really happening, you know, for most of the time, unless you're a great bodhisattva who can influence people in other ways, you know? So, yeah, so I think just having the openness, the curiosity, the you know, wanting to invest, it's like amazing. We need to really feel happy about that. That's a karma we've created, you know. It's really something to rejoice in so much, you know, because it's not that common in this world. Or even if it is common, people have a curiosity. They don't often meet qualified teachers, qualified teachings that are really going to benefit you long term. It might just be a short-term fixed thing, which might be okay for a while, but in the long term, maybe not really benefiting the mind, not really working on the delusions. So, as I say, I always say, each of us are very fortunate to meet this such a rich tradition that's been preserved since the time of the Buddha by great, great holy beings, you know, who went through a lot of hardship to preserve it. If you read some of the stories of the past holy beings, Milarepa, Marpa, Naropa, I mean, unbelievable. Even the Tibetans bringing all the teachings that have been destroyed, you know, their monasteries and everything destroyed in Tibet, but still bringing them here. Great efforts to bring texts, to keep the lineage, to keep it. So it's precious, you know. We feel that more and more we're in this tradition. So just feeling it's gratitude and happy, you know. It takes a while, but developing a sort of contentment in our practice is really, for either lay practitioners or monastics as well. Even sometimes monastics get too tight, and then it doesn't you know, it doesn't sort of bode well often if the mind stays tight for too long, or too neurotic, or too like, oh, I need to do everything now, you know. It's just aspirational level, aspirational. Any other question? Maybe one more question or comment or anything before we was I'm going to do anything? We don't have anything.
If there's no one else, I have a very quick question.
Yes.
And it's not relevant to anything at all that we've talked about. But over your right shoulder, there's a white sash there. Is that for somebody to present to a special Lama coming?
A white this one
sash
here
to your
here?
Yeah. There's
it's
a white.
Actually, yeah, it's a conch. It's not easy to see, but it's a conch.
Not the shell. The material coming down. Is that to present to a special Lama coming?
Oh yes. So maybe Bae, do you want to explain what this is? Yes. Maybe Bae'll explain. Yeah. Yeah. You know how to do. Yeah. No, you won't say it wrong. Melanie, you know what it is. You want to explain? Kata. You muted? No?
I would, yes, yeah. And that's all I would be able to say is just it's a kata. I don't know if it's being has special blessings because it's draped like that over the altar, or but that is what a student would offer to their teacher at the end of the teachings to say, thank you, and you get a blessing often from them, right?
So Yes, that's correct. And as far as I'm aware, the tradition of offering katas developed in Tibet. It's in the Tibetan tradition. You won't find it in other traditions of Buddhism. I mean, you might find it a bit more now, especially now because of the prominence of His Holiness. People know more about it even in other Buddhist traditions, you know. So, but generally, it's from the Tibetan tradition because in the time of Tibet, they didn't have flowers. You know, because of the climate, the flowers were very rare. So when teachers, they developed a tradition of offering katas when a lama arrived, or to greet a lama, or to go when you visit a lama to bring a kata. And then it's and it's a beautiful exchange. You know, you offer the white scarf and they bless you and put it over your head. So it's this exchange between the teacher and the student, a lovely exchange of sort of offering and receiving, which is what we are doing. This is this whole exchange that's going on in this tradition. We offer our practice and we receive the blessing. You know, that's what we're doing. We offer our meditation, we offer our service, and then due to that opening, we receive something back. And even when you offer the kata, you know, it's usually folded. And white also symbolises purity. Now, you do see golden katas and red katas. They can also symbolise the different types of wisdom that we want to develop. There's 5 wisdoms that are kind of the goal as well. So, but traditionally, it was mostly common was a white kata. And they also, when you fold the kata, it's usually folded over in 2. And there's a tradition of offering it with the seams forward towards the teacher. So there's an openness to receive. That symbolises being open to receive the teachings from that teacher, open to be able to receive. So there's quite a lot of symbology around the kata, but it's mainly coming from sort of in Tibet where they couldn't offer flowers regularly. You know, they didn't have many, so they developed this way of offering a kata instead. So it's very common in this tradition. And then we often put them on the altars as an offering to the altar, and or to statues. You know, often lamas will come into the Gompa and they'll go to the Shakyamuni Buddha statue where His Holiness is, or the throne of His Holiness, and offer a kata. You know, that's the first thing they often do, is offer a kata there, out of reverence and respect. And also it's like we just open up and we receive the blessing, you know, all the time. This tradition, we really, for these meditations to really go deep into the mind, we need to integrate it. That's why I'm using this practice of Chenrezig alongside. We're not doing it fully because otherwise there won't be enough time to meditate on the Lam Rim, but I'm just trying to drop in some of the Chenrezig practice, because if you have a meditation like that, or on Shakyamuni Buddha or Medicine Buddha or Tara alongside the Lam Rim, that supports and deepens your experience of the Lam Rim. So it's integrated. So when we go into establishing a daily practice, we go into that a little bit more, how you integrate a daily practice alongside some Lam Rim and how it works and blends together to transform your mind, those two together. Okay, so we are on 12:49. So let's take a 5-minute break again, and then we'll do a little bit more, one more meditation. So this session we're going to go through, because we'll be talking about it, and Joe brought it up as well, the death process. We're just going to go through it. Not that we're able to get an awareness yet now, but just to start to get a little bit of familiarity of what that would look like. The nice thing about doing the meditation on death is that, again, it's just reminding us that we need to go there. It's like this train, you know, this is the destination. This is what it's going to look like when the end of life comes. So this meditation's reminding us of death, reminding us of that destination. Well, not in a depressed way. It can feel like that when we first start to do it, because it's kind of hitting the delusion of attachment. It's hitting our sort of clinging to this life, our hopes and expectations. It kind of presses on that. It's like pressing on a bruise, you know. It's a wee bit painful. Can feel a bit like, ouch, you know, I don't know, that's kind of uncomfortable. But the more we do that and we mix it with other meditations, we start to feel an opening up to that possibility, that awareness. And what happens is hopefully a pliancy of the mind starts to happen eventually as we do these meditations. So we're going to start, let's just take a couple, we're going to do a little bit of the Chenrezig practice at the beginning and then finish with that and do a meditation on the death process in the middle. So let's take a couple of minutes just to center ourselves in our meditation position. Again, if you want to do a 9-round breathing, I'll leave you 2 or 3 minutes either to do 9 round or just bringing the awareness to breath to the body, doing a body scan, or just a few minutes just being with the inhalation and exhalation, whatever centers and opens you up most. Do that for a few minutes. And then just bringing Chenrezig. So we didn't dissolve Chenrezig. So he's been with us the whole time, like the light of the moon. Just kind of enlightening or inspiring our meditation, our practice, our discussion, watching over us. Omniscient mind, when the mind's fully developed, it can see all phenomena, all beings' thoughts, minds, wishes, aspirations, capabilities. So they're never separate from us, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. As Lama Zopa Rinpoche would say, they're always watching us, loving us, caring for us. So when we do these practices, when we invite the Buddhas to come, we start to sort of feel that presence because we're waking up our mind to feel that connection, to communicate with them in some level, wherever we're at. When our mind's fully purified, we'll see all the atoms become Buddhas, All appearances are Buddha fields. Everything we hear is Dharma, the teachings. And all beings are practitioners. So that place can happen. It's just a matter of us unveiling our mind, chipping away, taking away the layers of the onion so that we can see reality. Right now, we've just got these blankets over the purest part of our consciousness, so we can't see. But sometimes we can feel that when we're around holy beings, holy objects, or when we do these practices, something opens up. We get guided. As Joe was saying, we talk about something, then open a book and there's the answer. We get guided in these ways if we open up. Similarly, by making offerings, as we're going to do here, just for our meditation to go well, to get some experience, we make an offering, a mandala, to Chenrezig, to his heart. The mandala can be like the kata, of beautiful flowers. beautiful places and parks, delicious foods and all the restaurants that we enjoy, all the supermarkets. So as we chant it, just try and imagine and visualize and think I'm offering all these beautiful places, the smells, the sounds, the tastes that we enjoy, we offer vastly to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to receive that blessing, that openness in mind for us to go dive more deeply into our meditation practice. So we visualize as much as we can while we chant the prayer together. We'll do in Tibetan and English. Oi sai ji bogi je she me to tram ri ra bling je nye de gyam ba di sang e ji hindu me te war yi dro ku nam dak jing la chu par shuk. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine as a Buddha land and offer it. May all transmigratory beings enjoy this pure land. Yeram Guru Radna Mandala Gam Niyatayami. Okay, so now we're going to try and imagine that just like the train we were visualizing earlier in the practice, the train is kind of reached or almost reached its destination, this train of life that we're on. All of a sudden, the train's about to stop. And for us, that means we've got to the end of our life. So imagine we're in a hospital or we're at home, whatever's more comfortable, maybe at home. We were already diagnosed with cancer maybe some time ago or some other illness, stroke, something we've had for a while. And now we know we're getting to the end of our life. We're lying on our bed. Maybe we do have friends and family around. Maybe we've been there for a few days, but we start to feel that there's something shifting more definitively in our body. We start to feel now the end of my life's coming. The train is almost stopped. Maybe for a minute, we just go briefly through the experiences of your life, because that's what's going to happen. They flash kind of like lightning in front of us, from birth all the way through to where we are now. Where's the train brought us? So the first sign, and now we think to ourselves, now this is, I'm getting to this last point. First sign of death is that we start to feel, and it's probably happening over 2 or 3 days, but the body's getting thinner and weaker. So we're lying on the bed, maybe a few friends around us, but we start to feel this significant shift in the strength and the vitality of the body. It's like we're sinking into the earth. And then also friends, family, people around us, everything, the objects start to become very unclear, like blurry. And because we feel that distance from objects, what we start to feel more prominent in our mind is this starts to appear, the appearance of a mirage. Like in the distance, like a mirage in the desert, sort of a silvery, shimmering appearance, just pervades our mind. Just try and visualize that. So we say to ourselves, this is the first sign that I'm going into the death process. Then we start to feel that the mouth's drying up, the liquids in the body, the sweat. Everything sort of dries, feeling this dried up feeling in the body, in the mouth. And again, we're going much more inward into ourselves. And the vision of the mirage slowly starts to disappear, and what comes in its place is the image of smoke. As the earth element absorbs, firstly into the water element to give the mirage, and now the water element's absorbing into the fire element, and we get this vision of smoke. It's like being in a room that's filled with, incense smoke. So we try not to cling at the appearance, just be an observer and remind ourselves that we're going into a deeper level of the death process. Then we start to feel in the body the heat element absorbing. Body gets colder. There's a bit more confusion in the mind as we're drifting slowly and slowly more deeply into consciousness, into subtler levels of consciousness. This is the absorption of the fire, the heat element in the body, absorbing into the wind element. And the vision of smoke gradually gets replaced by a vision of fireflies. Again, just filling the sort of darkness of night, like just coming off of a fire. Or actual fireflies just in the sky, small but just flying around. And this is the absorption of the heat element. Again, just if we can, allowing the process to happen, but having an awareness that we're absorbing these grosser levels of consciousness. Gradually moving into subtler, more levels of consciousness. If we're a meditator, then we try to remember emptiness. Remember, it's just the appearance of the mind, and not to cling, not to label. Remember the appearance is emptiness, the nature of mind. Our inhalation gets shorter. Our exhalation starts to get really long now as we start to absorb the wind element in the body. or the grosser breath. At this point, everything's very, very distant. The appearance of the firefly slowly starts to get replaced by the appearance of like a candle, a single flame in the distance with a reddish blue hue. At that point, we take our final last breath as we absorb the wind element. Now we can't hear anything around us, see anything. This is the place where in Western society we're clinically dead, but there's a whole other level of consciousness, absorption that needs to go on a more subtle level when the breath stops. And again, if we can, we try to remember our empty nature, a place free of clinging at an I, at duality. We're going into a place where we're able to potentially recognize that on a deeper level. So as the breath stops, the appearance of that flame in the distance starts to absorb, and what manifests, pervades the view of our mind as like a white, it's called the white appearance. Like snow, fresh falling snow in the autumn when the sky is clear, and that whiteness reflects in the sky. It's like that vast clarity of white. It's a very deep, peaceful state. Called the mind of white appearance. For meditators, they recognize it as the mind of white appearance, and they wait for the next appearance. They know what's coming next. A more subtle level of consciousness that starts to appear and replace the white appearance. It's the red increase. Again, like the sky, like a copper sky during a kind of autumn sunset. Clear, but this pervasive redness, the sky, a vacuity that's in red in nature, red in colour, called the mind of red increase. For meditators, they remember emptiness. In this place, there's no clinging. We're getting closer to our most subtlest nature, the very subtle mind. There's very little delusion here. So there's a clarity where you can meditate on emptiness. But they know this lasts for a certain time, and then it's replaced by the mind of the black or dark near attainment. So that starts to absorb. And then what appears next is the mind of dark near attainment, like a clear sky at nighttime. A black vacuity just pervades our whole experience. And they remember emptiness. In this place, there's absolutely no sense of I, subject, object. It's a non-dual place. And they know that the next final mind is the mind of clear light. That's coming next. So there's an extra awareness, sense of strength as you go into that last and final stage of the death process. So here there's like a slight swoon, almost like when we go to sleep, you know, we go into this swoon. We were, even for meditators, there's a level of being unconscious. But then as you come out of that swoon, what appears, pervades the mind is this mind of clear light, like dawn time. Clear, vacuitous sky, just like that subtle changing of the light at dawn. It's pristine. The deepest, most peaceful state of your being. This is me. This is the final destination for this life. For meditators, that's the final home, where they meditate on emptiness. There's not even the slightest appearance of an I. It's all absorbing. Our mind's completely absorbed in the clear light. This is where we're one with all phenomena. This is me. So for meditators, this can stay there for as long. When you have control of this process, you can stay there for a long time, many days. It makes a deep impression on the mind, on our experience, on our future lives. And even at that point, you can realize emptiness, realize your ultimate nature. So the consciousness doesn't get propelled into the bardo, into samsara. It gets propelled into what we were saying, Sambhogakaya, the enjoyment body, the Buddha, or propelled into a pure realm where we can achieve enlightenment there. That's the ideal. So imagine from there that we also, from this very subtle space, we start to arise in a light body. That's empty in nature, like a reflection, but it's imbued with wisdom and compassion. So without initiation, we can't visualize ourselves a deity, but we can just think that from this space of death, we get prepared, through the power of meditation, we arise. We have this flexibility of mind, creativity to arise in a light body, a body of light that benefits others, or a body of light that lands in the pure realms, where there's no suffering, with the motivation that we want to benefit wherever we're born. That whatever we're doing, we're benefiting with our body, speech, and mind other beings, guiding them on the path to liberation and enlightenment. That's what a body of the Buddha does. It only works for others. There isn't a trace in individual sense of self, sense of I, me. There's a joy and a wisdom that just spontaneously benefits others. That's the qualities of the Buddha bodies. And what mantra does is mantra awakens that potential as well in us. The mantras embody the qualities of these Buddha bodies. They come from these Buddhas. The mantra Om Mani Padme Hum comes from Chenrezig. So let's all together, with that body of light, just chant the mantra and imagine that we're sending out light beams to all sentient beings, purifying them, guiding them on the path to enlightenment, bringing them all their temporary and ultimate needs, embracing all beings with the radiance of the light and the quality that it embodies. So we'll chant a few mantras together. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 So just through reciting the mantra, just feeling our whole body gets filled with that quality and that sound. You know, mantra, these syllables have a transformative quality. That's the power of Sanskrit, and mantra transforms the mind into virtue, into wisdom, into the quality of the mantra. Imagine all our pores, our cells, our blood, our bone, everything gets dissolved, absorbed into this. The radiance, the pearl-like quality of the mantra, the jewel-like quality. Mani means jewel, Padme means lotus. So connecting with that precious transformative power of the mantra. This jewel-like quality. To open our heart like a lotus. So our mind can rise out of the mud, the delusions, the samsara, like the lotus, unstained, clear and pure. Just like that pristine quality of the clear light mind. This is my nature. This is the nature of all beings. And then we dedicate all the positive energy of our practice today to realize bodhicitta. So that comes around module, 11 or 12. It's a ways off, but we already have a sense of what that is. It's a mind, like we see in His Holiness, that has this ability to just constantly be thinking of others, constantly focused on others, but has it's simultaneously great joy and the wisdom to properly guide, It's like a wish-fulfilling quality. Fulfills the wishes of all beings, temporarily and up to enlightenment. Ojanju senju rinpoche magi panang gyurshik geba nyamba meba yi gone gondu pelwar shuk. May the precious Supreme Bodhicitta, not yet born, arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. Incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, may you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. So I also want to dedicate for Lama Zopa Rinpoche for his swift and auspicious return to this world to please come back and continue to guide us, myself and each one of us and all sentient beings. And also for Ocean of Compassion, Land of Medicine Buddha, who both host this course for them to continually benefit others, have everything they need to benefit and really be able to spread the Dharma. And for each one of us here for a long life and our constant progress and enjoyment of the Dharma. May we be able to really enjoy the Dharma, be able to integrate as much as possible in our lives so we find bigger and greater, deeper peace and happiness in our lives up to enlightenment. and rejoice. How wonderful we spent this morning doing practice and meditation, trying to transform our minds into the Dharma. It's great. Okay, thank you so much for coming and joining. Yeah. Thank you, everyone online.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Angie. Thank you, Bay. Thank you, Urs, and everybody else.
You can go to bed at a decent time now, Joe, if you so desire.
Wow, no, I'm going to go and read some more Dharma.
One best. Yeah, great.
And I'm going to surprise you. I've decided, I looked at the test and I thought I could probably write that without it turning into the complete works of Shakespeare. So I might do it.
Well, I'm a bit relieved, Joe, because it's going to take a long time to read it otherwise.
Well, yeah, I thought
later I should maybe mention a couple of paragraphs per question is good enough,
I'm going to write less
I don't want
than that.
biographies. Anyway, great. I'm glad that you're going to do it. I'm trying to make it kind of experiential, not just like what's the answer to this and what's the answer to that, because it's more open book. So it's more about how it, just where you are, how it affected you right now. We don't have to have the right answer. As long as we're thinking about it and contemplating it and trying to, there's not necessarily too wrong or too right an answer right now. I mean, we don't want to go too school with, but, it might have to gently guide us back now and again. But we just need to be processed. There's a lot. DB is a lot, especially if it's still quite new. It's different if you've heard it a few times, but if this is your first time round, just let it touch you however it's touching you, That's good enough right now, definitely. It'll go in every time it just goes in deeper.